For years, the American people have demanded transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific crimes. Unfortunately, throughout this investigation, Democrats have chosen to manufacture yet another anti-Trump hoax instead of pursuing justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First. If you're new here, make sure you hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel because we are bringing you the truth that the mainstream media refuses to cover. We're diving into something absolutely explosive today, something that exposes the corrupt machine in Washington for exactly what it is. This is about a recent statement on the House floor regarding the ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. For those who don't know, this investigation is examining the horrific crimes committed by Epstein and Maxwell, but more importantly, it's looking into how the federal government completely failed to protect the victims and how certain politicians are now trying to weaponize this tragedy for their own political gain. The House Oversight Committee has been working to uncover the truth, and what they've found is stunning. So stick around because what I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind. Again, hit that like button and subscribe because we need to get this message out to as many Americans as possible.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chairman of the House Oversight Committee, I've always believed that sunshine is the best disinfectant. For years, the American people have demanded transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific crimes and about the federal government's failure to protect the victims. The House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough review of the federal government's investigation into Epstein. Our work goes far beyond the legislation before us today. We are committed to accountability, transparency, and justice for the American people and for the survivors of these appalling crimes. To date, the Oversight Committee has released more than 65,000 pages of documents, issued 13 subpoenas, and conducted interviews with 2 key witnesses, both of whom were Republicans. The Trump administration has provided us with Department of Justice materials and access to suspicious activity reports. Unfortunately, throughout this investigation, Democrats have chosen to manufacture yet another anti-Trump hoax instead of pursuing justice. They have mischaracterized witness testimony and selectively released documents complete with targeted redactions in an effort to smear President Trump. For example, former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, who oversaw the 2019 Epstein investigation, stated clearly under oath that the prosecution team found no evidence that President Trump committed wrongdoing. Despite this simple and straightforward fact, Ranking Member Robert Garcia, moments after that deposition, tiptoed out and publicly claimed that, quote, Barr could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. That was a lie, and we have the transcript to prove it. I invite the media to read the transcript. When the Oversight Committee interviewed former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, Democrats whipped themselves into a frenzy trying to manufacture a gotcha moment, but they failed. Mr. Acosta dismantled the Democrats' narrative. His testimony confirmed there was no contact between President Trump and Mr. Acosta and no connection between President Trump in the Epstein case. Next, Democrats resorted to selective leaks and doctored documents to mislead the American people. Oversight Committee Republicans have posted 65,000 pages of documents we have received to date. Democrats, by contrast, have released fewer than 1 dozen. In their latest selective leak, Democrats released just three of the 23,000 pages of documents from the Epstein estate. And they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed both the context and the meaning of the 3 pages they released. When CNN called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stansbury and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for their own edits, for the Democrat Oversight Committee edits. After Democrats released only 3 emails, Republicans released over 23,000 pages. And what did Democrats say in response when we released every single document that we got? They claimed full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. These are the same Democrats who chant, "Release the files" every day until the files contradict the story they want to tell. That is the definition of hypocrisy. In contrast, full transparency exposed how Epstein appears to be TDS patient zero. The evals reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
The gentleman is recognized.
The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during the 2019 oversight hearing to discredit witness with a vendetta against President Trump. And unsurprisingly, Democrats have been silent about their colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
Let me start by saying this. What we just witnessed on the House floor is exactly why the American people have lost faith in Congress. We have a chairman of the House Oversight Committee standing up there laying out the facts, showing the receipts, and exposing the absolute corruption and dishonesty of the Democrat Party. And what's the response going to be from the mainstream media? Silence. Crickets. Or worse, they'll spin this into another attack on Republicans while completely ignoring the bombshell revelations about their own side. The chairman made it crystal clear that this investigation has been about transparency and accountability from day one. They've released over 65,000 pages of documents. 65,000 pages. They've issued 13 subpoenas. They've conducted interviews with key witnesses. They've worked with the Trump administration to get access to Department of Justice materials and suspicious activity reports. This is what real oversight looks like. This is what happens when you have leaders who actually care about getting to the truth instead of playing political games. But here's where it gets absolutely infuriating. While Republicans have been doing the hard work of investigating these horrific crimes and trying to get justice for the victims, what have the Democrats been doing? They've been manufacturing yet another hoax to attack President Trump. That's right. Instead of focusing on the victims, instead of focusing on accountability, instead of focusing on how the federal government failed these young women and girls, the Democrats saw an opportunity to take cheap shots at Donald Trump. And they did it in the most dishonest, despicable way possible. Let's talk about what they did with former Attorney General Bill Barr's testimony. Bill Barr, who oversaw the Epstein investigation in 2019, testified under oath. He sat there and answered questions, and he stated clearly, unequivocally, that the prosecution team found no evidence that President Trump committed any wrongdoing. No evidence. None. Zero. That's a pretty significant statement, isn't it? But what did Ranking Member Robert Garcia do immediately after that deposition? He walked out of that room and told the media that Barr, quote, could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. That is a blatant lie. That is the kind of dishonesty that makes the American people sick to their stomachs. Think about what that means. A sitting member of Congress, someone who took an oath to uphold the Constitution, someone who is supposed to be seeking the truth, deliberately mischaracterized testimony to smear a former president. And he did it knowing that the transcript would eventually be released. He did it knowing that he would be caught in the lie. But he did it anyway because he knew that the initial headlines would spread like wildfire and that the correction would never get the same attention. That's the playbook. That's how they operate. Lie first, worry about the consequences later. And it doesn't stop there. The Democrats also went after Alex Acosta, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. They thought they had their smoking gun. They thought they were going to trap him into saying something that would implicate President Trump. But what happened? Acosta completely dismantled their narrative. His testimony confirmed that there was no contact between President Trump and Acosta regarding the Epstein case. There was no connection between President Trump and the Epstein prosecution. The Democrats were so sure they had something, and they walked away with nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the most egregious part of this entire charade is what the Democrats did with the document releases. Think about this for a second. Republicans have released 65,000 pages of documents. Every single document they received, they posted online for the American people to see. That's transparency. That's accountability. That's what you do when you have nothing to hide and everything to gain from the truth coming out. The Democrats, on the other hand, released fewer than a dozen pages. Out of the 23,000 pages of documents from the Epstein estate, they cherry-picked 3 pages. 3. And get this, they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed the context and the meaning of what was actually said. They doctored the documents. They manipulated evidence to fit their narrative. And when CNN of all outlets, called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stanberry and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for the edits that Democrats made. The audacity, the absolute shamelessness of that move is breathtaking. After Republicans released all 23,000 pages in response, do you know what the Democrats said? They claimed that full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. Let that sink in. They are literally admitting that they manufactured a narrative. They built a false story, and when the full truth came out and contradicted that story, they accused Republicans of releasing too much information. You cannot make this up. These are the same people who have been chanting release the files every single day. Release the Epstein files. Release everything. But the moment those files are released and they don't support the anti-Trump narrative, suddenly full transparency is a problem. That is the definition of hypocrisy. That is the definition of political corruption. They don't actually want the truth. They want a weapon they can use against their political enemies. Now, let's talk about what these files actually reveal, because this is where it gets really interesting. The emails show that Epstein appears to have had what the chairman called Trump derangement syndrome from the very beginning. There are emails that reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then-presidential candidate Donald Trump. A journalist worked with a convicted sex offender to try to blackmail a presidential candidate. Where is the outrage about that? Where are the investigations into which journalists did this? Where are the ethics inquiries? The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during a 2019 oversight hearing to discredit a witness who had a vendetta against President Trump. A sitting member of Congress coordinated with Jeffrey Epstein to manipulate a congressional hearing. That is obstruction. That is corruption at the highest level. And the Democrats have been completely silent about their colleagues' coordination with a sex trafficker. Completely silent. And here's the kicker. Another email shows that Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority in the House. Hakeem Jeffries, the current House Minority Leader, had his campaign solicit money from Jeffrey Epstein. From Jeffrey Epstein. The same Jeffrey Epstein who was already a convicted sex offender at that point. He had already pleaded guilty in 2008. Everyone knew who he was and what he had done. And yet Democrat fundraisers were bringing him in to meet with their rising star politician. Where are the congressional hearings about that? Where are the demands for Hakeem Jeffries to answer questions under oath? Where is the media firestorm? If this had been a Republican, if this had been anyone even remotely connected to Donald Trump, it would be the only story on the news for weeks. But because it's a Democrat, because it's their guy, there's nothing but silence. This is exactly what we've been saying for years. There's a two-tiered justice system in this country. There's one set of rules for Democrats and their allies, and a completely different set of rules for Republicans and anyone who supports President Trump. The double standard is so blatant, so obvious, that even people who aren't paying close attention can see it. The chairman also mentioned that they have subpoenaed former President Trump for a deposition, and to date, the Democrats have done nothing to help secure his appearance. Now think about that. If the Democrats really believe that President Trump was involved in something nefarious, if they really thought they had evidence of wrongdoing, wouldn't they be doing everything in their power to get him to testify? Wouldn't they be working with Republicans to make that happen? But they're not, because they know there's nothing there. They know that his testimony would only further exonerate him and further expose their lies. This entire situation is a perfect encapsulation of everything that is wrong with Washington. You have one party that is committed to transparency, accountability, and getting justice for victims. And you have another party that is committed to manufacturing hoaxes, lying to the American people, and using tragedy as a political weapon. It's disgusting. It's un-American. And it needs to stop. The American people deserve better than this. The survivors of Epstein's horrific crimes deserve better than this. They deserve real justice, not political theater. They deserve real accountability, not selective leaks and doctored documents designed to score political points. And they deserve leaders who will put the truth ahead of their partisan agendas. This is why we do what we do here at America First. This is why we refuse to stay silent while the mainstream media and the corrupt political establishment try to manipulate and deceive the American people. We are committed to bringing you the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter who it exposes, and no matter how much pushback we get. If you believe in truth, if you believe in accountability, if you believe in America First principles, then you need to share this video. You need to make sure everyone you know sees what's happening. The mainstream media won't cover this story fairly. The Democrats certainly won't be honest about what these documents reveal. It's up to us, the American people, to spread the truth and demand better from our elected officials. The chairman said it best when he said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. That's exactly right. The more light we shine on this corruption, the harder it becomes for them to hide. The more transparency we demand, the more difficult it is for them to manipulate and deceive. And the more we hold them accountable, the closer we get to real justice. So let's keep pushing. Let's keep demanding answers. Let's keep fighting for the truth. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's about justice for the victims. It's about accountability for those who enabled and protected Jeffrey Epstein. And it's about making sure that the corrupt politicians who are trying to use this tragedy for their own political gain are exposed and held responsible for their actions. Thank you for watching America First. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Share this with everyone you know because this message needs to reach every corner of this country. We're in a fight for the soul of America, and we can't afford to back down. Stay strong, stay informed, and always put America first.